Heartwarming twist, lost granddaughter's spirit surfaces. Shocking moment changes everything. Sarah paced through the dim light of her attic, her heart pounding as each footfall echoed in the silence. Dust motes danced in the slivered beams, surrounded by a swirling storm of unfulfilled expectations and buried dreams. Today, she felt an unsettling urge to dive deeper into her family's history, to unearth the roots entwined with her own aspirations. In the corner, an old, dusty box caught her eye. Unbeknownst to her, it would change everything. Inside, she unearthed a collection of her grandmother's letters and vibrant canvases, each piece whispering tales of a life drenched in color and passion. Her chest tightened, feeling both the joy of discovery and the weight of her family's legacy. An incredible artist silenced by regret. Did she dare to drag this hidden talent into the light, potentially shattering her grandmother's silence? The thought twisted in her mind, feeding her anxiety. As a nurse, she had spent years mending broken bodies, each patient tethering her to the community her father had once dominated with his medical prowess. Yet now, he was merely a shell of his former self, wrapped in layers of missed opportunities. Guilt lacerated her heart as she fought to understand why their relationship had grown so frayed. With every hour spent at the hospital, she felt herself veering off course, torn between her family's imploding legacy and her role as a caregiver. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. While exploring the letters, revelations poured forth. Her grandmother had infused her life into each brushstroke, yet fate had led her to sacrifice her passion for family, drifting into silence. Sarah's heart raced as she imagined the vibrant spirit begging to be acknowledged, to be brought back from the shadows. Yet, whispers of her father's struggles echoed ominously. His choice of medicine had cost their family its artistry, suffocating dreams in the name of success. The community buzzed with anticipation upon hearing of Sarah's discovery. Art dealers caught wind of her grandmother's work, and soon, an offer came that seemed too good to be true. Suddenly, she was thrust into a whirlwind of excitement and fear. Did she dare elevate her family's name, or would shining a spotlight on the past further wound already quivering relationships? That evening, under the flickering glow of the kitchen light, her father's eyes darkened when she mentioned the offers. The flicker of vulnerability startled her as he muttered about being pushed to the sidelines after he let ambition drown out affection. Regret, so palpable, seeped into each confession, stinging her more than she could admit. The burden of choice loomed larger, igniting a firestorm of internal conflict. As Sarah grappled with her grandmother's legacy and her father's haunted past, doubts clawed at her heart. Could she honor the unspoken dreams while risking a fracture within her already fragile family structure? As the night deepened, shadows lurked, and tension wrapped around her like a tight embrace. Just as she sat among the chaos of shifting emotions, a soft knock echoed through the house, heralding an unexpected package. Each tick of the clock grew louder, her pulse an ominous drumroll, and when she opened the box, a fragment of the past spilled out. A photo, a revelation that promised to shatter her understanding of everything she thought she knew. The question pounded within her: would this new discovery forge a path to healing or shatter an already fragmented legacy? Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she turned the photo over, its edges frayed and faded, revealing a time long before her own. The image showed her grandmother, a young woman brimming with life, standing in front of a striking mural she had painted. A palpable energy radiated from the photograph, fueling Sarah's insatiable curiosity. Who was this vibrant spirit, and where had that passion hidden itself all these years? After a restless night filled with fragmented dreams, Sarah awoke determined. As the morning sun streamed through her window, illuminating her personal crossroads, she made a choice: the past could no longer remain silent. She needed to understand the intensity of her grandmother's emotions and how they intertwined with her own aspirations. She sought clarity, not just for herself but for her father too, caught in his suffocating regrets. Armed with purpose, Sarah decided to visit the local art gallery that once showcased her grandmother's work. The receptionist greeted her warmly, a reminder of a world where art transcended the confines of regret. "We've been hoping you'd come," the woman said, glancing toward a wall adorned with vibrant pieces. "Your grandmother's talent left an imprint on all of us." Each painting had stories that echoed the same fears she felt today. As Sarah wandered through the gallery, she discovered a few unfinished canvases tucked away in a corner. The tragic beauty of potential lost gripped her heart. What dreams had her grandmother envisioned? A pang of empathy surged within her. She had always thought of her artistic talent as a whisper in the background of her life, lost among the chaos of demanding responsibilities. Yet now, as she observed the raw emotion captured in her grandmother's strokes, a melody of self-discovery began to play within her. It was not merely about art, it was about legacy, identity, and reclaiming a piece of herself that long lay dormant. Returning home, she fought an internal battle against her father's shadows. Each conversation with him felt like navigating a minefield. It was difficult to draw him out from the depths of his disappointment. And so, she devised a plan, confronting the opening question of whether she could lift the family name through her grandmother's art without further fracturing their relationship. That evening, she broached the topic over dinner. As she brought up the idea of showcasing her grandmother's pieces, her father's expression morphed from intrigue into apprehension. "You don't know the risks involved, Sarah," he said, bitterness creeping into his tone. "We've hidden it for a reason." His words sliced through her. What if she was merely channeling another layer of inherited trauma? The trepidation in his voice made her heart pound, and a wave of uncertainty washed over her. Could this endeavor truly honor her grandmother's lost dreams, or was it merely a catalyst for further discord? The choices weighing heavily upon her mirrored the fork in the road her grandmother faced decades ago. Yet, as she silenced his doubts with the conviction of her newfound purpose, she noticed a flicker in his eyes, a spark reminiscent of his earlier passion. Could this effort rekindle something in him, a glimpse of the man he once was? Sarah's pulse quickened at the thought of the consequences. Embracing the vulnerability of her talents could either unite or divide her family further. But the desire to illuminate her grandmother's legacy propelled her forward, even as her thoughts tangled within deepening layers of obligation and loyalty. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibility, when another soft knock reverberated through the house. This time, it felt weighted with unforeseen significance. With a shared glance, they both seemed to acknowledge that the trajectory of their family's future was about to shift again, redefining their paths in ways they could no longer control. What awaited them on the other side of that door could prompt the revelation they desperately needed or a challenge even greater than before. Sarah's heart raced at the infinite possibilities swirling ahead, knowing she was standing on the precipice of change. There was a thick tension in the air as Sarah approached the door, her heart pounding against her chest. The prospect of what lay outside was exhilarating yet terrifying. The unfamiliar could very well be the catalyst for the change she so desperately sought. With a quick glance at her father, she reached out and grasped the doorknob, inhaling deeply before opening it. Standing on the threshold was a woman she barely recognized. Her age suggested a kindred spirit, yet it was the eyes that truly captured Sarah's attention, deep and reflective, full of stories untold. "I'm sorry to intrude," the woman began, her voice steady yet tentative. "But I'm looking for Sarah." The stranger's presence stirred something in Sarah, a mix of anxiety and intrigue. "I'm Sarah," she replied, searching for clarity in the woman's expression. "I'm Lily. Your grandmother was my mentor," the woman said, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I learned so much from her, and I've heard about the show you're planning." Sarah stepped aside, instinctively inviting Lily into the warmth of their home. As they settled down at the kitchen table, an electric thread of connection began to weave between them, threading the past into the present. Lily recounted vivid tales of her time under Sarah's grandmother's tutelage. Each story painted a picture of a woman vibrant and alive in her artistry. Through her words, Sarah felt the pull of her grandmother's spirit reigniting within her, amplifying the urgency of her own aspirations. Could it be true that this art could serve as a bridge between generations? Yet, amidst the nostalgia and admiration, a question nagged at the back of Sarah's mind. Why now? She finally asked, feeling a mix of anticipation and dread. Why have you come to me? Lily took a moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup nervously. I lost touch after your grandmother passed. But I've always carried her lessons with me. I knew I had to seek you out when I learned you wanted to showcase her work. The weight of the moment pressed on Sarah's chest as realizations began cascading through her thoughts. This woman wasn't just a keeper of memories, she was a doorway into a world of creativity, an affirmation that the legacy her grandmother left behind was still very much alive. But Sarah's father, still lurking in the shadows of the kitchen, could sense the shift in her mood. You have to be careful, Sarah, he warned, his voice slicing through the fragile atmosphere. Her journey was full of pain. Lily turned to him. And yet, Sarah has the chance to rewrite that narrative. This isn't just about showcasing art, it's about embracing who she is. It's not about the past, it's about today and tomorrow. The words hung heavily in the space between them, igniting a conflict within Sarah. Lily's presence was a catalyst, urging her to step forward and seize the legacy as her own. But her father's fears loomed like a shadow, whispering cautions that threatened to strangle her ambitions. Sarah's internal battle flared to life. If she chose to pursue her grandmother's legacy, could she construct a pathway that didn't fracture her relationship with her father? Perhaps there was a way for them to navigate their fears together, to rediscover bonds frayed by time and regret. But the stakes felt monumental, the whiplash of possibilities dizzying. She caught Lily's hopeful gaze, a reflection of something she yearned for, a chance not just to honor the past but to forge a new future. What if we devoted a day to bringing some of the unfinished pieces back to life? Sarah proposed, her voice trembling with both courage and vulnerability. Maybe we can all find a piece of her together. Lily's eyes widened, sparking an excitement that coursed through the room, while Sarah's father remained silent, the tension of his thoughts evident in the furrow of his brow. In that moment, Sarah understood that the risks loomed larger than she could control, but so did the opportunities. What lay ahead could either be a reconciliation of the past or an unraveling of all she had yet to discover. As they sat together, deliberating the future, another knock sounded at the door, this time more insistent. Each heartbeat resonated with uncertainty, another revelation awaited them. What had they yet to uncover that could change the dynamics of their fragile alliance, either binding them closer or tearing them further apart? As Sarah moved to answer the door, her heart raced with a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. With each step, the reality of her choice lingered heavily in the air. She hesitated, mentally rehearsing the uncharted paths laid before her. Would this new visitor add to the weight she felt, or could they provide clarity in a moment already thick with uncertainty? She pulled the door open, revealing a young man, perhaps in his late 20s, wearing a flannel shirt and carrying a satchel slung over one shoulder. His eyes reflected an urgency that halted Sarah's breath. I'm Tyler. I was a friend of your grandmother's, he introduced, his voice a keen blend of familiarity and unease. Another visitor? Her father grumbled from behind, crossing his arms protectively as he stepped forward. Ignoring the tension strained between them, Sarah invited Tyler in, her curiosity piqued. As he settled into their circle at the kitchen table, she noticed that the space felt different, almost charged. I heard about the project you're working on, he stated, his gaze flicking between Sarah and Lily. I came to offer my help. Lily leaned forward, excitement igniting her features. What kind of help? Tyler's gaze shifted toward the paintings suspended on the walls, each one a whisper of Sarah's grandmother's legacy. Your grandmother was a great artist, but she also had connections to many local creatives. I believe I can introduce you to them. Together, we could organize something truly meaningful. The prospect set Sarah's heart racing again, yet alongside that rush was a pulse of anxiety. What does that mean for me? I barely know these people. Then let them know you, Tyler encouraged, his tone softening. You carry her spirit. You have every right to share your vision and make it your own. Sarah felt the pull of his words, the idea of stepping boldly into the role of artist rather than merely the granddaughter. Yet, just as swiftly, her father's voice cut through the moment. And what if it's too much? What if you don't have it in you to take on such a legacy? His fear vibrated in the air, a heavy fog that clung to Sarah's hope like a weight. She could feel the tension rise again, like a coiled spring ready to snap. Struggling to keep her ground, she turned her focus back to Tyler. What if I fail? What if this journey leads nowhere? It's not about where it ends, Tyler asserted, leaning forward, sincerity etched into his expression. It's about beginning. You have the chance to create something. It may be a mess, it may be beautiful, but it will be yours, and that alone makes it worthwhile. A flicker of conviction ignited inside Sarah, challenging the doubts her father seemed to embody. She found herself engaged in a tug-of-war, her impulses urging her forward and the shadows of her father's fears urging her to retreat. What do you think, Lily? She asked, her voice wavering slightly, grasping for support from the only other person in the room who seemed to reflect the kaleidoscope of possibilities unfolding before her. I think this is exactly what your grandmother would have wanted, Lily replied, her conviction a warm embrace. To create, to collaborate, to live in the fullness of those connections. You're not just taking on her legacy, you're redefining it. With those words, Sarah felt the tension shift. Could she really embark on this path, standing at the brink of both risk and opportunity? Every fiber of her being ached for an affirmative answer, yet her father's unease infiltrated her thoughts like a fog, mingling with dreams of what could be. Maybe, Sarah finally said, the word heavy on her tongue. Maybe I could reach out to some of the names you mentioned, Tyler. And we could do something together. Before any resolution could take root, another unexpected knock echoed through the house, brittle and quick like a heartbeat racing in the face of fear. This time, Sarah did not just feel trepidation but a visceral understanding of the delicate threads she was beginning to weave. With every revelation at her door, the world of creation and her own identity seemed to blur at the edges, uncertainty mixing with a sense of purpose that she had yet to fully grasp. Taking a deep breath, she turned the knob, bracing herself for the stories that awaited her, and the journeys still unformed that could either intertwine or unravel her fragile path to self-discovery. As Sarah opened the door, a chill coursed through her entire body. The figure standing on the threshold was a woman, dressed in an oversized coat with a wide-brimmed hat. The woman's expression was obscured mostly by shadow, but as she stepped into the light, Sarah felt an immediate tug of recognition. "Hi, I'm Diana," she said, her voice almost a whisper yet brimming with urgency. "I knew your grandmother well. I was hoping I could speak with you." "Another visitor," her father muttered under his breath, mere disbelief masking his worry as he stepped closer, ready to interrupt. "Please, just give her a moment," Sarah implored, surprised by her own assertiveness. With a slight nod from her father, she invited Diana further inside. As they settled around the kitchen table, the air buzzed with the weight of expectations and the ghosts of the past. Diana leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. "Your grandmother had an incredible gift, one that went beyond just painting. She spoke about you often, encouraged me to meet you when the time was right." The statement felt like an ember igniting something deep within Sarah. She had spent years ensnared in her grandmother's shadow, doubting if she possessed even a fraction of that artistry or passion. "Why now?" Sarah finally asked, voicing the question that had settled like a stone in her stomach. Diana's eyes glimmered with understanding. "Because now is your time. You're not meant to just inherit her legacy, you're meant to carry it into new territory. Art is an ongoing conversation, and you have the chance to shape it. Sarah shifted uneasily in her chair. But I don't know what that means or how to even begin. What if I fail? What if they don't want to hear from me? Those are the fears that hold us captive, Diana replied, her voice calm yet infused with an urgency that matched the rapid beat of Sarah's heart. But your voice matters. You are already breaking away from others' expectations just by being here, asking questions. You have voices around you who will echo your truth, but only if you allow them to. The idea rippled through Sarah like sudden clarity, yet tendrils of doubt coiled around that budding hope. Was she truly willing to put herself out there, exposing her insecurities and dreams? Would it even matter in the grand scheme? What kind of conversation do you think I should have? Sarah hesitated, uncertainty clouding her resolve. Start with what's honest to you, Diana encouraged. Create from the rawness of your experience, the highs as much as the lows. Show us your journey. Collaborate, connect, and let it breathe. As Tyler joined in, his agreement was another spark. The connections matter. Start small, with friends or fellow creatives. Share not just your artwork but your story. You'd be surprised how much others want to lift you up. A sense of urgency enveloped Sarah, sharpened by the donations of encouragement flurrying around her. She felt like she was on the cusp of a decision that could change everything, yet the looming figure of her father, arms crossed tightly still, reminded her of the potential for failure. What if it's not good enough? She whispered. Diana reached out and placed a hand over Sarah's, steady and grounding. What matters is that it's yours. That's what gives life to any creation. The door swung open again, and a gust of wind rattled the windows, bringing with it a blustery reminder that change was indeed underway. Sarah realized each knocking visitor was not just a call from the outside world but rather echoes of her own inner transmutations pressing to break free. The thought of reaching out to creatives filled her mind, yet doubt still threatened to cage that desire. Could she truly step into a new reality where her expression mattered as much as her grandmother's had? The moment buzzed with unbridled possibilities, and she felt it blooming in her chest, forming a resolution that felt more potent than before. I want to try, she said, her voice firm. I'll begin my journey. As a smile graced Diana's face and excitement glimmered in Tyler's eyes, a sense of impending action surged through Sarah. But even as she spoke, her phone buzzed relentlessly on the table, the familiar sound a stark reminder of her life outside this newfound space of hope. With a deep breath, Sarah reached for the device, her heart racing once more. Who could be reaching out now, and what could it mean for the path she was finally ready to embrace? As Sarah picked up her phone, the screen illuminated with a message from an unknown number. A wave of anticipation mixed with dread washed over her. It was a reminder of her life before Diana's visit, a life defined by routine, uncertainty, and the relentless pressures from her father. This moment felt like a tightrope walk between two worlds. The message read, "Hi, Sarah. It's Emily from the Art Collective. We need to discuss the group project including your grandmother's piece." Her heart raced, the words echoing with both excitement and anxiety. This was an opportunity she had dreamt of but had never dared to imagine would come so soon. The project itself felt like a lifeline, but the thought of using her grandmother's legacy brought forth a tidal wave of self-doubt. What if they wanted something grand, something she felt unqualified to deliver? Are you okay? Tyler's voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back to the present. His concern was palpable, and she realized how much he invested in her creative pursuit. I think I might have to respond, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Then do it. He urged, fervently. This is your chance to step forward. Don't hold back because of what others might expect of you. Taking a deep breath, Sarah summoned the courage to type a reply. Hey Emily, I'd love to talk. When can we meet? Hesitation washed over her momentarily, but she hit send before the weight of anxiety could anchor her back into fear. The act felt liberating and terrifying, like jumping from a cliff with the hope she might find her wings in the fall. "See? That wasn't so hard," Tyler grinned, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. "Now you can start shaping your own narrative within your grandmother's legacy." "What's next?" Sarah let his words wash over her, igniting a flicker of imagination. She needed a plan, more than just a response to Emily. What message did she want to communicate? What did her journey look like, and how could she share that with others? "Maybe I should sketch some ideas from my experiences. My truth," she said slowly, testing the concept. "The fear, the triumph, all of it." "Yes," Diana exclaimed, her eyes infinitesimal wells of encouragement. "Those emotions can translate into art. Use them as a medium to connect with those around you." She nodded, feeling a rush of energy coursing through her. Yet, still confined by the specter of self-doubt, her voice faltered. "But what if they don't see it the way I do? Or worse, what if it's not good enough?" "Good enough is an illusion," Diana said firmly, yet her tone softened. "Art isn't about acceptance, it's about expression. And remember, you're not alone in this. Lean on your connections like Tyler, like me. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, and you may discover the greatest strength comes from those tender cracks." Inspired but still wrestling with uncertainty, Sarah glanced back at her phone. She needed to seize this moment not only as an opportunity to join a project but as a declaration of her identity. The contemplation of pursuing this avenue filled her with a renewed sense of purpose, compelling her to delve deeper into her grandmother's past, to find inspiration that resonated with both her and the legacy she wished to cultivate. "Okay, I'm ready to create something that's unmistakably mine," she declared, her voice unwavering now. "Let's get started then." Tyler responded, eyes sparkling with anticipation. As they gathered supplies, sketchpads, pencils, paint, it struck her that she must cultivate her voice amidst the echoes of her grandmother's. Yet, as the energy of creation surged around them, Sarah's thoughts shifted back to her father's unreadable expression earlier. A knot tightened in her chest, the residual fear of disappointing him looming large. Suddenly, the door opened, and her father stepped through. The warmth from his presence collided sharply with the cold tension that had settled again in the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said cautiously, scanning their scene with a mixture of confusion and skepticism. Sarah's pulse quickened. This was it, the moment that could cement her resolve or unravel it. The time had come to speak her truth, to confront both her father and her fears. Would she dare share her plans with him, or was she destined to remain shackled by the legacy she was meant to transcend? The silence felt monumental, charged with expectation as Sarah prepared to respond, realizing that this was not just about art, nor simply about her grandmother. This was a test of who she was, who she wished to become. As Sarah stood frozen in that charged moment, the weight of her father's gaze bore down on her. His expression was complex, a labyrinth of emotions. Fear and disappointment twisted within her like a defiant knot, but the exhilaration of possibility began to thaw that tension, ushering forth an urge to break free from the confines of silent acquiescence she had unknowingly inhabited for far too long. "Dad," she began, her voice steadier than she anticipated, "I'm working on an art project that involves Grandma's pieces." As the words flowed, she watched for his reaction, measuring the pulse of his skepticism against her rising resolve. His brow furrowed, a familiar defensive posture. "What kind of project?" he asked, voice laced with a caution that tightened her throat. "An opportunity to convey the emotions and stories intertwined in her art," she explained, pushing through the doubt that threatened to choke her words. It's about celebrating her legacy and my journey." "Her legacy?" He scoffed lightly, a defensive flick of his wrist dismissing her aspirations. "You mean recreating old memories? You're not an artist, Sarah. Have you ever even tried?" The sting of his words landed heavily in her chest. Yet, beneath the hurt, a flicker of defiance sparked. How many more times could she allow him to dictate her worth? You know, this isn't just about recreating anything. This is about me finding my voice, Dad. It's about embracing who I am, she countered, each word cutting through the air with growing clarity. He blinked, momentarily caught off guard by her unexpected confidence. But skepticism quickly settled back into place. And what makes you think anyone will care? At that moment, Sarah recognized the critical juncture. She could feel the collective energy of her support system, Tyler's belief, Diana's encouragement pulsing within her, aiming to break the cycle of disbelief that had shadowed her for years. This was no longer just about the project or the legacy, it was about reclaiming her identity. She drew a deep breath, ready to push against the barriers her father erected. What if I told you that passion isn't defined by someone else's approval? She challenged, her resolve crystallizing. I don't need a guarantee or public validation. This project is the first step in discovering who I can be. Is it? He shot back, leaning slightly closer as if he thought the confrontation might rattle her. Or is it just another distraction? You've always needed to prove something, and this, he gestured toward the art supplies scattered around, this is a fleeting whim. The bitterness of his words triggered a surge of fire in Sarah. You're wrong. You believe you know me, but this is about breaking free. It's not about proving anything to you. A mix of fear and sheer will coursed through her veins, lifting the heaviness that her father's expectations had placed upon her. Yet, even in that moment of clarity, shadows of doubt still crept in. Was she truly courageous enough to pursue her passion? Would her efforts and vulnerability be met with the same skepticism, even from peers? Silence enveloped them as the tension in the room shifted. He seemed to weigh her words against a hidden fear of losing her, yet the hesitation in his eyes hinted at deeper conflicts, perhaps his own struggle with unfulfilled dreams. But instead of compassion, he responded with crossed arms, a fortress of disbelief. I just don't want to see you fail. You put yourself out there, and it might not end well. Maybe I need to fail to understand how to succeed, she said. With that statement, Sarah realized she was inching closer to liberation. Drawing upon that resolve felt empowering. She sensed her artistic potential awaiting manifestation like a hidden gem buried beneath the rubble of her father's expectations. The thought created a warmth that pressed against her heart, saturating her passion with life. But even as she stood firm, ready to push forward, a fleeting doubt cracked the surface of her confidence. How would she truly navigate this journey if the one person she yearned to impress continued to push against her? Would she find strength to break through, or would she remain tethered to his perception? With one last look at her father, Sarah clenched her fists. This is my life, Dad. I'm done existing for you. The words spilled out, raw and liberating. He recoiled as if she had struck him, a flash of hurt registered in his eyes. Sarah, he began, but she turned away, feeling a blend of determination and fear rise within her. This was just the first step on an uncharted path. As she gathered her supplies once more, renewed purpose surged through her. The journey ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, but now she was ready to confront it head-on. Would her art provide the healing she sought, or would it rip open old wounds she wasn't yet prepared to face? With those thoughts swirling in her mind, Sarah braced herself for the trial ahead, uncertain yet determined to navigate her truth. Behind her, the door swung shut quietly, leaving Sarah alone with her commitment and the echoes of their confrontation. Who would emerge from the shadows, and could she break free? The room felt heavy with silence, the absence of her father's critical voice loud in her ears. Sarah stood amidst the scattered paint tubes and brushes, her heartbeat quickening as she mentally plotted her next move. It was time to reclaim what had been buried under years of expectations, her artistry. With trembling hands, she reached out for the canvas. What would her first stroke be? In that moment of reflection, the burden of past failures weighed on her, almost like a shroud stifling creativity. Yet the defiance she had summoned in their confrontation rippled within her, demanding to be acknowledged. She was not her father's judgment, not a derivative of his dreams. She began to paint, letting her intuition guide her. The brush swept along the canvas, a dance of colors that seemed to speak to her soul, whispering encouragement amid the chaos of her thoughts. With each dab, she felt herself transforming, shards of her identity being pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle long scattered. This was no longer just a project about her grandmother, it was about her Sarah, the artist. Hours bled into one another, lost in a swirling mix of vibrant colors, the world outside fading away. The once intimidating blank canvas slowly morphed into an expression of her innermost thoughts, untamed and raw. Abruptly, a knock jolted her from her reverie. The sound echoed in the stillness, a reminder of the outside world clamoring for her attention. "Hey, Sarah, you in there?" It was Tyler. "Yeah, just a minute," she called, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. As she smoothed the last stroke across the canvas, she felt a sense of accomplishment settle within her. Stepping back, she let out a breath, marveling at the image before her. It was an abstract representation of a woman embracing the storm, a reflection of her own tumultuous journey. When Tyler stepped inside, his eyes flickered with surprise. "Whoa! This is amazing! What inspired this?" She hesitated, the weight of her earlier confrontation replaying in the back of her mind. "It's about embracing chaos, finding freedom within turmoil," she said, choosing her words carefully. "What do you mean?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "It's about understanding that creating doesn't need validation. I'm trying to break free from everyone else's expectations, even my own," she revealed, the vulnerability in her admission holding her grounded. "Wow, that's deep," Tyler replied, his eyebrows raised. "Maybe you should show this to your dad. He might see what you're capable of. Or he might just see a flaw," she countered, clenching her fists. The semblance of faith she had just found was tainted by the thought of facing her father's judgment once more. What if he dismissed her work again? "You can't think like that," Tyler insisted, stepping closer, his tone softening. "You're strong enough now. You know what you want. This piece represents that. You have to share it, no one else can do that for you." His words hung in the air, a compelling challenge that stirred her heart. Could she really offer herself up for criticism again, armed with this fledgling empowerment? "Maybe," she said slowly, uncertainty creeping back. "Or maybe this is just for me, for now." Tyler took a step back, studying her. "Just remember, Sarah. Art can heal. And sometimes, sharing that vulnerability opens doors you never expected," he said, an encouraging smile breaking through his enigmatic expression. As he left her space, she felt a rush of conflict. Tyler's words lingered, sparking a notion that tugged at her heartstrings. But the fear of rejection tightened its grip around her aspirations. Would putting herself forward risk the flame she'd just ignited? As twilight dipped into her workshop, the shadows lengthened against the walls. She stood before her painting once more, caught between fear and exhilaration. What if her next move defined who she would become? The thought ignited something deeper within her, pulling her toward a decision she wasn't fully ready to make. The next morning, there was a knock once more, this time from her father. The weight of his choices still hovered over her, yet she felt a voice emerging, daring to challenge the silence that had governed their relationship for too long. "Do I really want to face him again?" she wondered aloud as she hesitated at the door, gripping the knob tightly. But then the realization hit, this could be her moment to carve her path anew. Would she embrace this opportunity, risking exposure and fear once more? With a final glance at the painting that mirrored her arduous journey, Sarah opened the door, ready to confront the silence and to redefine her relationship not just with her father, but with herself. What awaited her on the other side as she faced him? The door creaked open, and Sarah stood poised, her chest tightening as she met her father's gaze. For a fleeting moment, the air thickened with unspoken history, a lifetime of expectations trapping them both in a complex web of unacknowledged pain. She had envisioned this moment 1,000 times, yet now, somehow, it felt entirely different. "Sarah," he said, his voice unusually gentle, almost tentative. He stepped into her workshop, his eyes immediately landing on the painting. "What do you think?" The question slipped from her lips before she could contain it, a challenge tethered to vulnerability. Her father's expression was inscrutable as he inspected the vibrant colors and the raw emotion that emanated from the canvas. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "It's bold. I didn't expect that. Or maybe you just didn't know me at all," she shot back, her voice steadier than her heart felt. Anger and disappointment bubbled beneath the surface. She had spent years reshaping herself to fit into the mold he carved. "Sarah, that's not fair," he replied, a shadow of hurt passing across his features. "I thought I was helping you find your path. I didn't realize how stifling that was for you." His admission caught her off guard. There had been countless days where she had drowned in his expectations, but hearing him acknowledge his role in her pain felt like unearthing a buried scar layered under resentment. "Helping? Or imposing?" she challenged, her voice losing its edge as she faltered. "You never allowed me to explore what I wanted. It was always about what you deemed worthy." He sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I see that now. But it's not too late for us to change that, is it?" His question hung in the air, a delicate thread of possibility. For years, she had prepared to battle his scrutiny, but there was a softness in his tone that dared her to reconsider. Was there room for forgiveness, for understanding? "I don't know how to let you in, Dad," she admitted, her voice wavering. "You've built this wall between us, and I don't know if it can ever come down. We can begin to dismantle it, together," he offered, stepping closer, his remorse evident. "But you must be willing to let me see who you really are." Throwing caution to the wind. She hesitated, contemplating the risks involved. The fear of falling back into the pattern of disappointment was nearly paralyzing. Yet, a part of her craved the chance to be seen, truly seen for the first time. The promise of fewer constraints loomed before her like a sunrise breaking through the clouds. "I painted that piece to express myself, to step out of your shadow. I want the freedom to create without judgment," she confessed, breathless with honesty. "Then show me what you have. Not just with this painting, but with your life, with your choices." "Let me learn," he urged. The prospect was daunting. Could surrendering this level of intimacy open wounds or heal them? She felt the weight of his expectations shift, now interlaced with a plea for connection, a desire for understanding. "I'll try," she whispered, the vulnerability laced in her words both terrifying and exhilarating. Had she enabled herself to begin a new chapter, filled with soft canvases and untested colors? Or was she risking heartbreak once more, tangled in the potential for failure? As she turned away from the door, letting her father in further, an electric tension crackled through her, a tempest of emotions coursing through her veins. Gradually, Sarah realized this meeting could transform them both. Yet her heart remained in turmoil, and she couldn't help but wonder if she truly had the courage to relinquish her fear for the sake of artistry and a relationship previously dictated by silence. "Let's start here," she said finally, gesturing to the painting. It felt as if unveiling a shield that had protected her in myriad ways, yet she sensed that simultaneously, it could unearth something profound. As her father stepped forward to touch the painting, Sarah realized that perhaps the tumultuous storm she depicted was merely the prelude to her greatest creation, the relationship waiting to be realized. Would this moment redefine them, or would it merely add another layer of complexity to their entangled existence? Her heart raced with anticipation as the answer lingered just out of reach. But before she could dwell on it further, something outside caught her eye, a familiar figure meandering down the path, seemingly drawn by an unseen force. What if this unexpected return would spiral everything out of control? Would she be ready for yet another storm? The sound of footsteps approached as the door creaked open once more. As the door swung open, the silhouette of the woman framed by the doorway took Sarah's breath away. It was Lily, the mentor of her grandmother, whose words had lingered in Sarah's mind like a gentle caress. Is it too late? She had asked herself 1,000 times, but seeing Lily standing there sparked a sense of clarity she hadn't experienced in ages. Lily, Sarah breathed, feeling a wash of urgency blend with hope. I heard you were gathering pieces to honor your grandmother, Lily replied, stepping inside the room, her eyes falling upon the painting. And this is stunning. Sarah glanced at her father, who was still absorbing the weight of their earlier conversation. The paint on the canvas was fresh, still alive with vibrant conflict capturing her struggles and triumphs. It's a reflection of my journey and this moment, she said, emotion catching in her throat. I know how significant this is, Lily said, her voice steady and encouraging. Your grandmother's legacy isn't just in her art, it lives in you. It's time you share that with the world. The word struck a chord within Sarah. For so long, she had felt shackled by expectation, both her own and her father's. To step into the light and embrace her artistic identity was a challenge she was now ready to accept. Nobody needs to validate you, Sarah, Lily added, sensing her hesitation. You have the chance to find your own voice and inspire others, just like your grandmother did. With Lily's presence, it felt like the weight of the past lifted, allowing Sarah to envision an openness to possibility. Her father, still standing nearby, observed the unfolding conversation with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Show him, Sarah, Lily pressed gently. Invite him into your process. Let him see your evolution as an artist, not as his daughter. The prospect both terrified and exhilarated Sarah. Her father had shaped her thoughts of self-worth for far too long, but the resurgence of strength within her felt unwavering, a kindling ready to ignite. Dad, she said, her voice firm but vulnerable, I want to share this journey with you. This isn't just about Grandma anymore, it's about us finding a way to connect through art. For a moment, confusion clouded his expression, but beneath it, a flicker of understanding began to seep through the cracks of his defenses. I've been scared to see what you would create, Sarah, he finally admitted, the tension in his shoulders settling as he drew closer to the canvas. But I see now that it's not about me. It's about you becoming everything you've wanted to be. As her heart surged with warmth, Sarah motioned to the paint scattered across the table. Let me show you what I've created, she invited, feeling the word strengthen within her. It was time to engage him in her journey, to break the cycle of misunderstanding, and collaboratively build something new. Together, they organized the art supplies on the table, creating an atmosphere ripe with potential. With paintbrushes in hand, Sarah led her father through the process of creation, weaving their lives together through strokes of color and emotional expression. He may never truly understand the depths of her artistry, but she would embrace him in sharing the narrative pressed between their experiences. As they painted in unison, their individual stories began to intertwine, dancing together, echoing the turbulent skies painted on the canvas and the warmth of their spirits mingling like the colors beneath the sun. Can I try? He asked tentatively after a few moments of silence, dipping the brush into a vibrant shade of blue. Sarah grinned, eager to watch him make his own mark, feeling a swell of anticipation course through her. With each stroke, they began to unearth unrecognized paths, a mutual commitment to rediscover what mattered. Memories rippling forth from the pigments they laid together, the experience transformed the cold air around them into one that hummed with possibility. It was no longer solely her grandmother's art they honored, but an expression of newfound understanding and acceptance. Validation of both Sarah's identity and her father's evolution. In that moment of shared creation, Sarah experienced a firm sense of accomplishment, a breakthrough she had long anticipated. She wasn't just defining herself through her art, she was tearing down the walls that had kept them apart for too long. As daylight faded, casting a warm golden hue over their creations, Sarah felt a surge of satisfaction wash over her. Before her stood a tapestry woven with new beginnings, a glimpse into the artistic legacy she would now carry forward, imbued not only with her grandmother's spirit but with the rediscovery of her own voice and the profound connection she had reclaimed with her father. They finally shared a triumphant glance, a silent understanding passing between them. How far they had come stood in stark contrast to where they had once been. It felt like the dawn of a new chapter, one where both of their dreams could flourish without judgment, allowing growth to become the central theme of their story. As she packed away their supplies, Sarah knew that her journey was truly just beginning. The strength she had cultivated within herself was undeniable, leading her toward something spectacular. The realization dawned upon her that she could walk fearless and empowered, anchoring herself in the authenticity of her creativity. With her heart alight, she turned to her father, who nodded in solidarity, pride barely hidden in his eyes. Each breath filled with a promise of collaboration, healing, and art, a legacy reborn. As she stood, surrounded by the canvases, poised to forge ahead on her path, a thought anchored in her mind: this was only the start of something magnificent. This was her moment. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.